Now, for your listening pleasure, here's Pulizzi and Rose, covering the week of media, marketing, and digital content news. This Old Marketing. Take it away, boys.
Well, hello, my friends. This is Robert Rose, and welcome to episode number 380 of This Old Marketing for Friday, June 16th. Well, it's 2023, isn't it? And with me, as always, my pal, my colleague, my really, really good friend, and a guy who definitely won't be taking Pat Sajak's place as host of Wheel of Fortune, Mr. Joe Pulizzi. How are you, my friend?
I don't get the reference. First of all, I thought this was 390. Is this 380?
390. Oh my God. Did I say 380?
I think you said 380, which is fine.
No,
If we want to go back into the past.
Hold on. No, it's 380.
Is it 380?
It's 380.
Why do I think it's 390?
I don't know why you would think it's 390.
Probably because I wrote in the notes that it was 390.
It is.
This
380.
We're losing it, folks.
Yeah.
And thank you for the glorious new background to our. So again, it's a podcast and people aren't getting it that we're on YouTube now too.
Right.
This is our fourth.
It's a reason for you to go check us out on YouTube as well, because now we have the glorious, wonderful little background.
Although, and it worked, by the way, when we mentioned it, we mentioned that, and we had like 4 people subscribe to our YouTube channel. Very exciting.
Very exciting, all 4 of you. Thank you.
I don't get the... Tell me about the Pat Sajak thing. So I've been under a rock. What's going on?
Okay, so I'm assuming you know what Wheel of Fortune is, yes? I mean, I don't disappoint me here.
Vanna White, the whole thing. Yes, I know that.
There you go. So Pat Sajak has been the host really since, 40 years, I think. Mm-hmm. And continuous host for 40 years. Not like he went away or anything. And he's retiring. He is retiring from the Wheel of Fortune. So it's either this season or next season will be his last.
I didn't know that Pat Sajak was a human being. I thought he was a robot. Well,
it is. He does have a bit of the Dick Clark sort of fountain of youth thing. It's like the guy.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's remarkable.
There were a couple years in there where he was looking younger and younger and younger. I don't know how that happened. It's a mystery.
Yeah,
as to how he would look younger, but he did.
Yeah.
What's he going to do?
That I don't know. He did not tell me. He was not forthcoming in his future plans.
I thought, he lives in LA, right? So I mean, you live in LA.
Of course,
we're assuming
we
your
must
neighbors
know each other. Of course, yes. Yeah. He actually, I know where he lives. He lives in Beverly Hills, but
of course you do.
Yeah. Well. Yeah,
you knew.
That's the way it is.
And you also wrote for the Tony Awards as well. This
did I?
A couple days.
Is that
ago.
what I did?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Okay,
all right, fantastic. I'm going with that. Yeah.
Did you catch that? I caught little clips of it, but it was talking about how it was a delicious. People were saying it was so wonderful that it was unscripted because of the writer's strike.
It was fun. I thought, I'm going to be completely honest. I was not familiar with, and I'm forgetting the name of the play, the musical that won. It's like Awkwardly Somebody, which is an anagram of the heroines of the shows. I watched the clip from that. They did the whole number from that play, and they did a whole thing. I don't get it. So I thought there was a lot of other shows that were a little more, I don't know. I just didn't get it. I didn't get it. But yes, the show itself was wonderful. Almost the unscripted nature of it was really fun. It was, and the Tonys are always nice because they focus on performances. So you actually get people singing the songs, doing the numbers, sort of having fun with themselves.
A little bit easier than when you do the films and
yeah.
Although music.
Yeah, well, the music shows have gone that way as well, right? Yeah. So the Grammys and the American Music Awards have sort of leaned into that sort of more performances and less speeches kind of thing. So I like it for that.
So this Saturday we are going to, as you know, we're part of the Broadway series in Cleveland. A lot of people don't realize that there are more Broadway shows in a square mile area of Cleveland than any other place in the United States except for New York. I have to say that. I know I've said it on the show, but I have to. I'm a Cleveland homer. Anyways, this Saturday we're going to see Moulin Rouge, a former Tony Award winner.
Great show.
Very excited.
Love that show.
I love the movie, and I loved Ewan McGregor.
You've never seen the stage production of it?
I've never seen the stage production. Have you?
Yeah, I have, and I will tell you that there are some of the songs that they do in the movie they don't do, and some of the songs that are in the movie they're more pronounced in the stage version. But God, I love that music. They did such. I mean, that whole show is. I adore that show so much. The stage performance as well as the movie for different reasons. But yeah. Oh God.
Yeah. I felt the movie is so all over the place, but the songs are just so good.
Oh,
I'm assuming that it's going to be the same, even though you said
what may.
I know,
what may.
It's going to be. I hope
great song.
They generally do. They'll get somebody that sounds like a Ewan McGregor because they like to keep it. But who knows who you're going to get as the lead? I'm sure they'll be amazing. But every time I think of the music from Moulin Rouge, I have Nicole Kidman and Ewan McGregor in my head.
Yeah.
So that's going to be, it's kind of the same with Hamilton. Like I always hear a Hamilton song. I always hear Lin-Manuel Miranda, always in my head.
Wait till you hear it. Some of those songs sung. I mean, look, nothing against Ewan McGregor or Nicole Kidman, but when you hear those songs sung by like actual real professional Broadway
like
singers,
not Ewan McGregor.
Yeah, right.
It's that much better.
It's awesome. You're gonna have a great time.
Yeah. So what else is going on?
So I wanted to get your take on this. I mean, this, we were going to put it into the show flow, but it's a little more inside baseball for those who are listeners of the show, now watchers of the show, of all, which is, so the Cleveland Browns have now introduced yet again, for I think the 17th or 18th time, a new logo, the new dog logo, as it's being called. And it seems to be getting rave reviews, this new logo with all sorts of cool hidden symbols. And I wanted to get your take on what you think of it as a Cleveland Browns fan.
Yes, I didn't catch all the symbols. I only caught a few of them beforehand. And the first thing I have to say, I love it. Actually, we should probably show it. I don't know if I can find it here. Here we go. Whoop, that's not it. Oh, there it is. So there's the new dog. If you're looking, so basically, those of you listening somewhere, you can take a look at it and whatever.
Sure.
And I only noticed the Guardian Bridge, the Bob Hope Bridge, which is the mouth of the dog. But basically, there's 8 homages, if you will, to Cleveland, and this is great because we love this because this is all we have. Like preseason, this kind of stuff, we get so worked up. I mean, there's no other football city that gets more worked up about a logo change or anything than Cleveland because once the season starts, it's sort of downhill from there.
So let me ask this. How is the town, just taking a temperature of the city's mood around your quarterback and all the controversy and all of that, is that sort of died down, or are people still saying, I'm not going to the games and I'm sort of quietly quitting, as it were, or what's going on there?
I have to say that there's not a lot of excitement going into the football season.
Yeah, that's
and
sad.
It's not that we don't, and for those of you that don't know, the whole Deshaun Watson thing and the giving of lots of money, more money to any quarterback than that's ever happened to a controversial figure, if you would, that maybe doesn't have any more lawsuits. We don't know, with the whole massage scandal thing going on, but there was a deflation of excitement moving on. We loved Baker Mayfield, regardless of whether you think he can throw or not. He was he had the motivation. He had sort of that Cleveland chip on his shoulders.
Yeah,
and we were excited about that. And then we go him because he's done. And my take is they ruined him, because they continued to play Baker when he was hurt, and it showed. So whatever, Baker's not in the situation anymore. We bring Deshaun in, and we really have this new logo to look forward to, which is very exciting for all of us. We've got great talent. There's no doubt about it. I just don't know if the belief is there yet that they can win. And Deshaun, in the games that he was in, I think he played the last 4 or 5 games. Something came back week 11. I did not see the Deshaun Watson that we saw. That was the all-pro Houston Texans, amazing quarterback. We didn't see that. So I would like to see it. Robert would be. Said he was very excited. So in the dog, and by the way, it's a secondary logo. It's not the Browns logo is the orange helmet. That's the main logo.
That's all it is.
Then when we've got 17 sub logos, we've got a little brownie, which is like the Cleveland Browns leprechaun that we have, and we've got this one, which is the dog pound. Browns logo, and it's like it's got a little pick to Rock and Roll Hall of Fame thing, and as I said, they got the bridge. It's got the little thing that looks like Ohio, and an homage to the dog pound over here. Really good. I love what the artist did. It's a really mean looking.
It's very
dog.
Cool.
But we don't know if that dog can win football games yet. That's what we don't know. What did you think of it? Did you have any feelings?
I thought it was really cool. From as a marketing person, as a branding person, I thought it was really well done. It's always the sign of a great logo to me is what the artist does with the negative space, and the symbols, as overt as they kind of were in many ways, the symbols in many of that the negative space creates in many logos isn't as subtle. And there's whole articles that you can look at this. The FedEx logo is a great example where the arrow is made, in
which you don't see, and then you always see once you
exactly. And in the Amazon, the smile, in the logo, and all of those kinds of things are I think are really interesting and show just that sort of attention to detail. And that's what I loved about this was, at its very face, it looks like a dog. It's not sort of weird geometric shapes. It's actually looks great as a logo, but then the negative space sort of giving, sort of the Easter eggs, if you will, to the local crowds, and using the negative space to do that, I just think was really awesome.
The spikes in the collar are nice because it's a good reminder that the Browns used to be the greatest football team on the planet when they won 8 championships in a 15-year period or whatever the case is.
Yeah.
And I believe they won the last championship before the Super Bowl.
Before the merger. Yeah.
But we have not won a Super Bowl. So a lot of people, so whenever they do those, here are the NFL teams that have no championships, the Browns are always there.
Yeah.
The same thing with the, the Cleveland Indians, now Guardians, the same thing. Haven't won a World Series since 1948. Thank you.
Yeah.
But thanks. That's why we have LeBron, who brought a championship to Cleveland in 2016. And
there it is.
Thank you, LeBron. We love you.
There it is. All right. Well, should we get to our show?
Sure.
Or should we get to the actual show?
Yes.
All right. Fantastic.
Do we have a good show today?
We do have a good show today. We've got some fun things to talk about, some new launches and some all sorts of weirdness in Twitter land and all sorts of things. We will start by talking about TikTok. Really, I mean, it's really more about social media than anything else, but it is a new study that has come out that starts to talk about how fewer people actually now trust traditional media. Big shocker there. But more, and this is the interesting part, are turning to TikTok for their news, which is a little scary, to be honest.
A little scary?
Google, yeah. And then speaking of news, Google will be launching their news. We talked about it on this show last year, the news showcase where they're going to start paying news publishers for the news. And they're going to launch that actually here in the US. We'll talk about the launch and what that might mean for news publishing. And then we'll talk about a tweet, but it's being covered by Search Engine Land. And we're going to talk about how Twitter may now or will now, depending on who you believe, start paying content creators for seeing ads and those kinds of things, and seeing what all that will be. And then the last, if we get time to get to it, will be Meta and Microsoft are joining a new artificial intelligence partnership. We'll talk about what that means, and that the growing sort of, I don't know, there's a few of them out there, which I'll talk about. My little company, we joined one that the Adobe folks are sponsoring, but talk about what those might mean sort of in terms of the AI and content creation and all those kinds of things. Then we'll get to some questions. Of course, our questions, wonderful questions and answer. And we've got a lovely one today, more of a comment really than a question, but we'll talk about what Peter has to say. And then we'll get to Rants and Raves, where I will talk a little bit about, well, the Reddit blackout that happened this week.
I want to hear about this.
Yeah.
This sounds good.
And what that might mean. And spoiler alert, don't build your home on rented land, folks. And then Joe will actually talk a little bit about Arnold. Arnold Schwarzenegger has a new documentary.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know why I just became
it
Scottish all of a sudden, but yes.
Yes.
But yeah, here we go. Get to the chopper.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't watch episodic series except if it's a documentary. Then I'm all in. I'm a sucker for documentaries. And it seems like every year,
documentaries are,
every year older I get, the more documentaries I want to watch. What is it about the human condition?
I don't know.
You're not that way.
Let's be specific. Well, let's be specific. It's your condition. This condition is specific to you.
Pulizzi,
this is not the human condition necessarily.
Yes, I have issues.
This is the orange golf shirt condition, is what this is.
Hey, it's getting more difficult. This is my fourth different orange shirt because I want to be cognizant of my wardrobe, and we have to give the people a new, like, you have a hat on today. I don't usually see you in a hat.
I decided to wear a hat today.
Yeah.
Because you wore a hat last week, and I was like, oh, maybe I can wear a hat. And I do often wear a hat when we were recording and not on video. I do often have a hat on because as we talked about last week, I have my favorite baseball caps, and I wear baseball caps quite a bit.
Yes.
But I don't often wear them on video. And so I thought this might be fun.
Yeah, because it's not like you're doing an interview. It's not like this is important. It's not like you're doing. It's not like when you're doing an interview. I don't know how you feel, but like when I'm doing if I got a Zoom interview where they're recording the podcast or whatever, I always feel compelled not to wear a hat because it comes off as unprofessional.
100%. And dress
up.
We
can wear whatever we want on this show because
totally. It's business casual here for sure. And the other thing is that when I'm doing sort of an interview or something like that, I never drink coffee, but of course I'm going to be drinking coffee.
But the other thing that you put a new background together. So if you haven't seen this, go check out the YouTube video or check us out on LinkedIn. So you have this old marketing at the top, and all I see is that you are this and I am old. That's what I see when I look at this.
You won't be able to unsee that, folks. Yeah.
Thank you for making sure. And because you set the names the way they are, I always have to be under old, and you always have to be under this.
That's the way it works, my friend.
Yeah, I guess so.
That is the way it works.
Rock and roll. Let's go.
Okay. Let's get to our first story here, which is, of course, from Reuters, was where we're going to actually cover this story from. And the headline here is that fewer people trust traditional media and more turn to TikTok for news, report says. The article opens up by saying the number of people globally who initially access news through a website or app has dropped by 10 points since 2018. That's amazing. And younger groups prefer to access news through social media. We've known that from studies before. Search or mobile aggregators, according to a report released on Tuesday. Audiences pay more attention to celebrities, influencers, and social media personalities than journalists on platforms such as TikTok, Instagram, and Snapchat. The Reuters Institute for the Study of Journalism said in its annual digital news report, and that's a great report, by the way, folks. It's a really good report, and they've been doing it for some time. TikTok is the fastest growing social network in the report, used by 20% of 18 to 24-year-olds for news. That's up 5 percentage points from last year. Fewer than half of the survey respondents expressed much interest in news at all, down sharply from 6 out of 10 in 2017. And that's the amazing stat for me. There are no reasonable grounds to expect that those born in the 2000s will suddenly come to prefer old-fashioned websites, let alone broadcast and print, simply because they grow older, Reuters Institute Director Rasmus Nielsen said in the report, which is based on the online survey of roughly 94,000 adults conducted in 46 markets, including the U.S. And the article goes on to talk a little more about some of these for a little bit longer. And I think it's just fascinating here. What we've seen with, we didn't cover it on the show last week. We certainly could. The CNN CEO is out because ratings have been sort of in the tank for them forever. All of the news, including Fox, have seen declines in viewership and
Yep.
increases in age of viewership, right? I think they said the average Fox News viewer was 65 or 66 years old, that's an average. I mean, that's crazy. It's just young people are not watching the news on TV or in print. They are not getting their news anywhere else except social media, and I think that's just a fascinating trend that continues to grow. What do you think?
It's concerning, especially because
Really, is it?
I'm gonna say, yeah. Well, when did we start having? Remember when the I guess it was before the 16 election, we were talking on the show about how everyone has different views because everyone sees news different, gets their news from a different place, sees their news. We used to, back in the day,
Algorithmically fed, yeah.
all watch the same news.
Yeah.
We were getting the same thing, whether you believe that's correct or not. That's what was, and so we were all engaging in the same type of information and started to believe similar things about what was going on. Now everyone gets a different reality, and now you're telling me, which we've known is true, but it continues to grow, that reality is being sponsored by a Chinese media company.
All right.
And I don't want to make this political at all, but it's an issue, which is why I always I'm concerned about. It's not the data. It's everyone talks about TikTok and them getting the data and privacy, whatever, of, in this case, the United States. That's not my concern. My concern is the fact that you can shift the beliefs very quickly and the cultural sentiment very quickly, because they are the most powerful media company in the United States right now. Influential, I guess, to say. Maybe they don't have the most users, but from a influential of the youth. I mean, so let's look at Meta. Meta has the biggest numbers, right? Meta shifts older, similar to what your stats were for Fox News, if you will. I was at a dance event last. We were supporting some friends who had a great dance show, and there were a lot of grandparents there, and all those grandparents were on Facebook. It's very, very clear to see that there weren't any young people that were scrolling through Facebook. So anyways, what do the younger people look at? They look at YouTube, and so that's the concern there. And I don't know if I'm crying wolf here or like just shouting fire in the theater, if you will, but when I see these stats, that's the first thing I think of. And I don't know what you thought of it, but
here's the thing. I think I'm always conscious of that. Everybody attributes this quote to Clayton Christensen, but actually it's him relaying the story of a professor that he was watching. And the line is basically, "You may hate gravity, but gravity doesn't care." It's basically to explain that this is going to happen. This is already happening, and it's going to happen. And the only question is, what are we going to do about it, right? So the idea here, we've talked at great length on this show about TikTok and, it's both of its dangers as well as its benefits, and how really it probably does need or deserve to be banned, with regard to something or in some way controlled. But the nuanced argument, the sort of opposing thought that we also need to hold in our head at the same time, is so do the others. Just because it's from China doesn't necessarily mean that the others are without blame here or without danger.
Oh yes, absolutely.
Twitter, Facebook, to some very limited extent, even LinkedIn, the algorithm feeds the social information vacuum, and thus, you sort of it feeds this idea of tribal knowledge, which is everybody has their own set of facts, right? To your point, everybody has their own set of news, and of course, we've talked at great length about how media has not become about the news. In other words, it's not about what happened, but what people think about what happened, right? So if you watch and this includes the CNN and the Foxes and the every other mainstream, MSNBC, basically any news outlet, it is that media is much less about here's what happened and here's what's happening. Rather, it's here's 4 talking heads that are going to explain to you what all of this means. Like, what does the invasion of Ukraine mean? What does the, who's to blame, right? And all of that is around the catastrophization of the news. In other words, how does it basically instill fear, uncertainty, or doubt into an audience that will click on it and watch it and be engaged enough to want to watch more of it, because nobody clicks and watches on just what the facts are, right? And I think that's the interesting thing, because when we go back and look at news programs from the 70s and 80s, you had do you remember McNeil Lear Report, right?
Oh yeah, sure.
When you would watch McNeil Lear Report, the news, and I used to love that show. It was literally, it was an hour of, and this happened. No commentary, nothing. I mean, it was basically, this is what's going on in the world. And you basically got a really good hour-long view of what was going on in the world. And there was no commentary at all about it. That's gone, right? That's just, that is just, it doesn't exist anymore. Even to the extent that those that are covering things, New York Times, Washington Post, big newspapers that are still on paper and in primarily digital, they are reporting on what's happening, but there is a slant of this is what it means for all of it, because they have to do that in order to get some semblance of audience. And
but the other thing is, it's not just because of that, which I agree with you. It's the fact that it's cheaper.
Of course.
Look at ESPN as a really good example.
Great point. That's a great point.
How much actual sports is on the main channel of ESPN? An hour a day? Yep. 2 hours a day? It's all commentary. It's all 3 or 4 people getting together talking about 1 or 2 news events. That's the media business model that has happened because of all the other competition around there. They can't make money from it unless they just say, okay, well, we can pay these people a little bit of money and have them throw their opinion out, or we can spend a lot of money for the rights on something, like Apple just spent for her Major League Soccer rights, because they have $220 billion and don't know what to do with it besides buy Disney. Right. But that's another story. But that kind of thing, I think, is where we're at right now. So,
well, I think you make a great point, and it actually reminds me very much of the thing that, so we had a bit of a offline with friend and family of the show, Stephen Davis, who emailed both of us around something we could have covered on the show, but didn't, how Twitch is really starting to see declines in live viewership, and how it might be the end of live streaming as a platform. And one of the things that we talked about in that thread was the difference between live streaming things that are time-based versus the live streaming of things that can be consumed later on demand. So in other words, watching a program that has 2 people like us, right, talking about stuff, I can watch that whenever, right? I can, there's no reason for me to have to
You don't have to set an appointment. You watch it when you would normally watch it or listen to it.
But the Tony Awards, for example, or a sporting event, for example, you have to watch in real time, or you want to watch in real time, because if you don't, you will have missed the event, right? There is a digital scarcity to it that is time-based. Live news used to be that, right? So in other words, the way that CNN or those news media outlets used to keep you hooked was it didn't exist if you didn't see it there, right? In other words, the news would not find you. So if you wanted to know about the war or what's going on in Europe or what's going on in, Africa or South America or someplace that's not in your local backyard, you had to tune into CNN to get the live news, because you were going to miss it otherwise. But now, because it is transformed into this sort of analysis of the news, I don't need to see, any of those newscasts live, because the news will find me through my email, through my, through social media, etc. Anything that's important will find me. And then second, because you're not telling me what's going on that I will have missed, I don't need to watch it. So that's why you're starting to see this decline.
And the last thing I'll just cover on it, I just talked about it in my newsletter about the first 3 hours of someone's day. For most people today, the first 3 hours of someone's day includes they have the alarm on their phone, and they say, okay, I'm gonna snooze that, or I'm gonna pick up the phone, and then I already get a feed of stuff. of what's going on in social
Right.
media, or I get
That's
a
right.
feed of the news, which is it's right there on your iPhone. And
That's right.
Apple has it baked in with their Apple News product.
And the second it breaks, right? You're getting a push notification. New York Times breaking news. Supreme Court has ruled on X or whatever, right?
Yeah, and so all that's happening, and I don't have to believe, watch, subscribe to any news outlet today. Right. Now I still happen. I don't know how you get. I still do every day. I skim through Morning Brew and I skim through New York Times to just get, all right, what is going on? And I didn't see the Pat Sajak thing. I must have missed it. I'm sure it was in there somewhere.
It was.
But yeah, so
it was a New York Times breaking story.
I missed it. I missed that one. Wasn't in my, or I just glossed over, whatever the case is. But yeah, so I guess the point we're making here is this is only going to continue. And as so like my parents and a lot of my family, they do watch a good chunk of a news program, but they're in that, older than 65 group of people, and anyone younger than that's not doing that today. So it's killing the media outlets, traditional media business model.
Yep.
And at the same time, we're all getting our own view of reality.
Well, and so it segues nicely into something we can cover quickly here, which is our next story, which is, speaking of the news, of course, now Google says it's now going to launch the News Showcase product here in the U.S. And so that article, coming to us courtesy of Axios, basically said Google on Thursday that it will finally debut its News Showcase product in the U.S. this summer, years after initially launching it in other countries.
Has it been 3 years? It's been like 3 years, right? This is a long time coming. Yeah.
We talked about it. I went back and looked at our archives, and we talked about it last year when they said it would be coming to the U.S. within the next year. And here they've basically made good on that promise that the year. But it's been around in Europe for a while, based on a number of those lawsuits that happened, including in Australia and other things. And anyway, it says the launch, which has faced multiple delays, comes as lawmakers in the U.S. weigh legislation that would force tech giants like Google and rival Meta to pay news publishers. California's legislature last week passed a bill that would tax tech firms for news content. It now heads to the Senate for consideration. And on the national level, a bipartisan group in Congress reintroduced a bill in March for the fourth time. While that bill seems unlikely to become law anytime soon, shocking, it's gained more bipartisan support each time it's been reintroduced. The News Showcase product basically is a set of features and dedicated spaces within Google search products that elevate high-quality information for readers. Let's just translate that. It scrapes the news and puts it on Google's search engine results page. So it's basically that.
Is this the zero? Is this the zero search? Is this where I'm getting it without the links, or am I going to a Google page? It's not how if you go to Google News now, you will click on and I'll go to, it's a CNN article. I'll go right to CNN or New York Times, whatever. This is not that, right? This is the permission to scrape, so I don't have to click.
That's correct. Yeah, okay. As I understand it, yes. But however, it will be, I suspect they'll include, it's just how much do they scrape, right? Because now if you go to Google News, you basically get the first 2 sentences or whatever, or maybe you get a headline and a link. I think now what you're going to get is a much longer formatted, and this, we shouldn't lose context that this is also going to be within the context of Bard being integrated into search results and those kinds of things. So I think you're likely to see a new kind of interface that has much longer articles sourced from the participants here that they're paying for, so that they can actually feature it on Google's search results page, thus making Google search results page a little more enticing, so that they can serve contextual ads around it. So,
I totally get why the thousands of publishers or whatever are doing this, including New York Times, which I guess it's $100 million deal. So it's not inconsequential. It's a good amount of money, but it just seems wrong. It's like, okay, yeah, Big Daddy's going to pay me some money for
right.
this
Well,
thing.
we've been down this road before,
Yeah.
right? I mean,
and I know it's killing my business model and will kill my business model, but I have no choice because all the other publishers are going to do it. It's just like when they came back. I mean, I've told you when Google used to come into Penton Media and have those conversations and talk to us and teach us about how we could do proper search engine optimization so that they could get all our content. And there were a couple publishers that are like, no, we do not want to give our content over to Google, and all our competitors are there, or whatever. Like, no, but we got to be found and we need revenue and advertising and whatever. And boom, what happened? That was the downfall of the digital media business model.
Yeah.
Not that I'm not crying in my Wheaties here or whatever.
Well, you know what?
Whatever you want to say.
Here's the thing. It's where it's most worrisome is not for those outlets, the handful or, let's call it, I don't know how many they'll ultimately sign up here, probably less than 100, I would guess, across different verticals and across different sectors and regions, et cetera. Who knows what ultimately the participating number of publishers would be here.
Yeah.
However, what's worrisome are for those that won't participate, right? This is going to absolutely destroy any, because you go search Google News now, right? So you go, like I get a Google News report on my name. I get it on content marketing. I get it on marketing. I get like 7 Google News alerts every day. You go in there and click in, and it's, any number of small sites, big sites, it's everything from vertical small blogs to big news outlets. And it's really a plethora of media outlets. This is going to kill all that, right? This changes all of that, right? Where the small news outlet that's covering some vertical that's fairly well covered by one of the participating, that relationship may not be exclusive, but it won't matter. Because if I find the report on the front page of Google, there's no reason for me to go find it from a smaller provider. And so this is going to literally wipe out so many smaller news outlets.
Well, we've already been seeing it, right? We've already been seeing it,
absolutely.
But maybe so we've seen it with BuzzFeed News and Vice going bankrupt and all that stuff. I think what we're learning right now is that getting into the news media business is immediately a losing proposition.
That's right.
And can't be sustained anymore. So now you have a very few amount of groups with a lot of money that are coming out with the news that is being distributed by Google. It's just, I'm not going 1984 or anything on you, Robert, but you can see this happening. You have those people with a lot of money are creating the news.
Yes.
And distributing that news, and those journalists who have really good missions behind them can't sustain the business model today. And those creators that are going out there are making clear decisions not to be news journalists. They're doing something else.
That's right. And what it's going to perpetuate, and I think, again, we have to have the ability to hold 2 opposing thoughts in our head at the same time. What it's going to perpetuate is exactly what we were just talking about 10 minutes ago when we talked about the idea of it being more about what people think about the news. So if you think about outlets like The Verge, for example, or TechCrunch, where are very vertically focused, and the articles that you read there, yes, they're news, but they're much more around explainers, right? They're much more like, okay, here's what the implications of this are. And they do a great job, right? I think TechCrunch is a great publication, and I think The Verge is generally a great publication too, that really help explain complex things in a pretty balanced and good way. I mean, they're covering technology and sort of that sort of ilk for the most part. So there's not a lot of politics there, but I think it perpetuates that idea, right? So if I'm going to compete now, I'm not going to compete on the news. Like, I'm not going to compete on sort of breaking news, because Google and New York Times and Washington Post and all the other participants in this thing will just sort of, that market will be segmented, and there's no reason. It's completely commoditized at that point. But I may be able to differentiate in what everybody's been differentiating in, which is having journalists and or an analyst who can sort of make sense of what's going on here, so that there's dive deeper, right? Take a deeper look, et cetera, et cetera. So maybe there's hope there for some smaller publishers to be able to start to differentiate. And it's certainly where businesses will have the ability to differentiate when it comes to things like content marketing.
Well, we have that model, right?
Yeah,
we don't
that's
create the news. We analyze the news, and the challenge for any company.
I don't know how much insight we're giving.
Well,
but
that's
yes.
but the thing is that you have to put a lot of faith in your talent. Then
that's right.
Like if somebody would say, "Oh, we want to bring this old marketing on into their network," they have to be real sure that we're not going to screw something up for their brand.
That's right.
And it's not just the process of getting news. It's not that, New York Times is New York Times, Washington Post is Washington Post. These creator brands are about the creators. So it's just a different way to go. So
perfect segue into the last story that we'll cover for the show. It's almost like we design it to be this way. I don't know who does the show flow, but it's absolutely wonderfully elegant.
But they're this and not old. That's what
right.
they are.
It is this, not old.
This, not old.
That's
all right.
This. Did you get this? Robert Rose. Anyway, see how that works out?
Yeah, I hear you.
It's the small things. It's the tiny little things that matter. Anyway, content creators. Speaking of content creators, Twitter says Elon Musk, and now covered by Search Engine Land, which is where we'll link to in the show notes, of course, will start paying verified content creators in the coming weeks. Elon has confirmed plans to start paying Twitter's verified content creators for ads served in their replies. But as you might expect, there are conditions. Twitter's going to start paying its verified content creators for adverts. I'll bet Nicola is British. I bet you Nicola's.
Yes.
Because
adverts.
Only English say adverts. Yeah. Anyway, adverts. So I should read this in a British accent. No, I'm not going to read it in a British accent. All right.
Maybe a Sean Connery accent. You could go with.
See that served in the replies over the next few weeks. Elon Musk, who has owned social networking site. Anyway, since October 2022, announced that the first block payments total $5 million. However, he has set some conditions. What's new? Well, under Musk's new rules, content creators will receive cash for their ads and their replies, but only if they are verified. And in addition, the billionaire added only ads served for verified user counts. That if you just parse that sentence a little bit, anyway, let me just continue here. Then I'll come back to that because that's just gold, Jerry. That's gold. Why we care? We don't, by the way, but why we care, says the article. Well, this news means that advertisers will have yet another potential stream of revenue on Twitter. Advertisers have another stream. Anyway, why now? Musk's announcement comes as advertising guru Linda Yaccarino prepares to join Twitter.
I love that name,
CEO.
Yaccarino.
Yeah. It is hoped that her leadership will help restore trust in the platform after ad revenue plummeted following some of Musk's restructuring decisions, including laying off almost half of Twitter's 7,500 strong workforce. The article goes on basically to give a timeline of what Twitter, basically just, she needed 500 words and basically there was only 200 needed for the article. But basically the article is about about Elon's tweet. So let me just go first because I want to parse that.
Sure.
I totally want to
just read the news and give your commentary. I'll just sit back here and do nothing. Go right ahead.
Here's the thing. If you read that sentence, right? Content creator, because I read his tweet, and this is exactly, it does say this exactly. The content creators will receive cash for their ads in their replies, not the original tweet, but the replies to the original tweet, only if they're verified, meaning they have a blue check and that are paying Elon, or basically they have a blue check because Elon in his good graces gave you one. And in addition, the billionaire added only ads served to verified accounts. So in other words, only ads served to blue check people will get revenue on the replies from other blue check people for ads served there. So it's a segment of a segment of a segment. And by all counts, they have about 500,000 blue checks now. So we're talking very, 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 very little money here. If at all, right? Because this is me sending out a tweet. Somebody replies to that tweet. A user replies to that tweet. I reply to that tweet. An ad gets served in that reply chain, and both of us are blue checked. We're eligible for some small percentage of an ad that gets served in that reply chain. So, I mean, we're going to make sense. We're gonna make tens of cents, Joe. Twitter is going to be a huge revenue cash cow for us.
I just wanted, before I go, I wanted to make sure you were done with your part.
I'm done. This is done.
Do you have anything else that you want to add before I would give mine?
I'm done.
Here's what, yes, you pointed out, this is insane how any creator would be excited about this. The biggest issue is that Twitter's advertising model is already terrible.
Right.
It is, of any of the platforms, Twitter's advertising is the least effective. Talk to anyone who's advertised on it. I've advertised on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Which has performed the worst? Twitter is the worst every time. So they're basically taking a big pile of number 2, and they're going to say that you can make a little bit from that, and it's already bad. I guess what I would say is this is an extreme lack of focus, because they need to figure out what their business model. Maybe they have it. What does he care, right? Tesla's business model, or Tesla's market cap, is now over 300 billion. They've had another resurgence. They're doing great. Crazy, they're setting all kinds of partnerships up. So Elon doesn't care. This is such a small part of his overall net worth. I don't know why he's wasting time with this.
That's right.
I really don't. It's like a pet. It's a pet project for him.
It's amazing, silly. And what Linda Yaccarino is.
I just got it. You know what it reminds me of?
What?
Vinny Barbarino.
Yaccarino, yeah.
No, it's the cadence.
Yaccarino, Yaccarino. Anyway, that ages me. That ages both of us right there. The fact that we know Welcome Back Kotter stuff.
Welcome back.
So here's the thing. Yeah. I think it's interesting to me, the switch, because literally just today, as we went to record this, he also tweeted as he was retweeting Tucker Carlson's show, which, by the way, is having its own problems because he got a cease and desist from Fox and all sorts of things. So we'll see what happens there. But Elon tweeted that, hey, by the way, the left is welcome to set up their own shows as well. So he's clearly now been either told or influenced or in some way cajoled to start saying, hey, listen, maybe you should do some bridge building here. You should do some marketing here, right? You should actually start talking about all the cool things that Twitter is doing instead of trashing the platform whenever you do. Because his tone has noticeably changed over the last couple of weeks or so. So they're trying to make it a thing, right?
I know, and they've lost whatever that said. They've lost 75% of their advertisers or whatever, and that was, and yes, in large part because Elon is Elon. But this stuff was going to happen anyways, because as you and I were talking before the show about how many companies are still in their batten down the hatches mode that we're in because of where the uncertainty of the economy. That's and right. If you were advertising in 2021 on 4 social media platforms, you're only advertising on 2 now.
That's right.
You've made those cuts. And so this gave them a really good excuse to say, oh, great, I can now cut Twitter out of my budget.
Yep. 100%. All right. Moving on now, we're going to move to our wonderful segment for questions and answers. And we have, let's say just an awesome, not really a question from the wonderful friend and family, Peter Brecht, on the show, but more of a comment about what we talked about last week with Ted Lasso. Joe, cue that up if you will.
Yeah, we're gonna play this. Here we go.
Yeah.
Hey guys, this is Peter. Just listening to your episode from last week, and especially about the part about Ted Lasso and if there's going to be a spinoff. So, in the last episode of the show, season 3, Rebecca and Keely are talking about a women's soccer team, and I think that'd be a pretty cool spinoff. So, it's a really small part of the show, but the very last couple minutes when she sells 49% ownership, I think it'd be a really cool way for the show to go. So. Anyways, thank you guys for the show and keep doing what you're doing. All right.
Yeah. Thank you, Peter. The thing I like the best about
alert of that.
Hold on. See, it just continues to play. Let's stop that. I'm still, that's my fault. That's on me. That I will. As the old part of this crew, I will take it. You know what I love about this segment, though, Robert, is that we don't even need questions anymore. We just take comments.
That's right.
Just
throw it out there.
What do you think about Peter's comment?
I love it. It's funny. I hadn't actually connected those dots. I mean, I remember the scene. And by the way, I think we probably should have said spoiler alert.
Oh, spoiler alert.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert.
For any of you who didn't watch,
it's not a big spoiler.
It's not.
Oh,
well,
yeah, I
by
guess
the way,
there
you
were a
should have
couple
seen it.
things
Yeah,
in there.
Yeah, you should have seen it by now. But yeah, I did not connect those dots, but that would actually be the right way to do it, right? That would be, because it would be a whole new cast, a whole new, with some leftovers, Rebecca, of course, and Keeley probably.
And you could have some drop-ins by Roy Kent and
That's right.
Keeley and that kind of thing. Yeah, but it would
be a whole women's thing, and it would be brilliant. Yeah, it's
it would
a
make
brilliant
perfect
idea,
sense.
actually.
I hope that they absolutely do it. But again, I'm in the camp now that they're going to do the Seinfeld thing, where there will be no. Although was there some that tried to. Did Kramer try to have a spinoff of Seinfeld? No, there was none.
Didn't. Yeah, they didn't.
They
talked about a reunion at one point, and they actually did do a reunion of some consequence on forgetting the show that I'm thinking of. It's people out there screaming it into their things, right? I'll think of it while we're doing rants and raves. But there was a reunion of some sorts just recently, actually. So yeah, but that's it. No spinoffs.
So we'll see.
Right.
Peter, I like the positivity behind it. I don't think it's going to happen.
You like the cut of your jib, sir. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes, and thank you for spending the time on going to our thisoldmarketing.site site.
Speaking of which,
yeah,
great segue again. This
wow, unbelievable.
It is now time for our rants and raves, but before we get there, we do want to remind you we've got all sorts of wonderful things over at thisoldmarketing.site, including the ability to leave us a voicemail comment or a question or things that you can get live on this particular show. So please do that. Go over there and give us a voicemail, give us a story idea, give us a question. We would love it. You can also subscribe to Joe's amazing newsletter. You can also subscribe to our little experience advisors community. You can immerse yourself in the other 379, not 399, so 379 episodes of the
just trying to get to 400. I see that 400 and we're going to do some kind of special, like really old marketing episode. 400
really old marketing. super fragilistic old marketing.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. Do you want to go first for commentary? Yeah,
I will go first. As you know, I love documentaries, and I saw Arnold Schwarzenegger's documentary come up, and I saw 3 episodes. I can handle that. And and I have to say, I was very much impressed. It's one of those. First of all, I could not think. Maybe you can. I could not think of another individual that has been at the pinnacle of their industry in 3 different things. Which Arnold was in bodybuilding, and then he was the #1 action movie star, and then was the governor of California, and probably never ran for president because of the rules that you have to be born in the United States, and that was the only thing stopping him from it. Yeah. Of course, it's filled with faults. It's still a very pro Arnold Schwarzenegger, so just go in knowing that I think he had final say over the cut. They kept some negativity, and there's some things that's happened in his life, but I just love some of the sayings that he has in kind of the whole thing. If you look at the 3 episodes of it, everything's about moving forward. It's like, if something bad happens to you, we just got to move forward. And he talks a lot because his dad, basically from when he was really young, says the most important thing that you can be, Arnold, is useful. And he talked about this idea of being useful, whether that's useful for your own purpose, for somebody else, for a charity, for another organization. And I just love that. And of course, I think being useful leads to some kind of fulfillment and happiness, joy, if you will, from doing that. So I just wanted to recommend, and that's sort of side note from a content marketing standpoint, is that I read a lot of the commentary up to wanting to watch this from Netflix's own content marketing channel, which I love the name of it. We've talked about it on this program before. It's called Tadum. And if you're subscribed to Netflix, you know that when you open up the Netflix app, it goes ta-dum,
Yeah.
and that's the name of their, content marketing. And what they cover every program that's on the Netflix, almost every program that's on Netflix, they do a series of articles around and talk about it. So
great.
that when you would search for Arnold Schwarzenegger documentary or whatever, you get a review from Netflix on their own.
It helps
stuff.
You keep up for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty amazing. So I don't know if you're going to watch it, but
I am now. Yeah, I definitely am now. I love that being,
3 hours of
useful,
3 hours of total time, just about. And man, I know a number of people who are 75 years old, and I know you're close to that too, Robert, but
sure, of course. Yes.
He looks so good for 75.
He does. I mean, it's amazing. You talk about
if that's
another guy
if I have to take steroids, if I have to start taking steroids, because I know, in the program you'll hear spoiler alert, he took steroids for many, many years. But wow, it's really worked. It's really worked for him. Gotta tell you, still works out all the time, has a farm, seems very happy. We'll see. Yeah. Anyways,
all good.
There you go.
All good. I love the useful part. Yeah. As I've talked about this in one of our special episodes before, one of my grandfather, he wrote me a long time ago that, my mission in life should, and he was quoting someone else. So this is not his original quote, but he sort of messed it up, but I like his version better actually, which is do all the good you can for all the people you can for as long as ever you can. So you just sort of,
absolutely.
That's sort of a good mission to live by. I have found.
Absolutely.
All right.
You have
very quickly. So
commentary.
The Reddit thing. Yeah. So just talking about, there's a lot of I'm a heavy Reddit user. I like Reddit. I've always liked Reddit. I've been a Reddit fan for, 10, 12 years, basically really since it's been around. I basically moved to Reddit when Dig sort of had its, for those who remember Dig, which I also loved as a news site, sort of went downhill. And then I sort of moved over to Reddit and really have enjoyed it. It's geeky fun. It's a great place to sort of just unwind and see stupid stuff. That's how I use it. I definitely don't necessarily use it for news or anything like that. I see cat videos or, look at other videos or look at, it's sort of like a version, an older person's version of TikTok, if you will. Anyway, I subscribe to a few subreddits. And so the news, for those of you who may not know or may not be big Reddit fans, is that Reddit has changed its position and the CEO has changed its position. And there are definitely rumors as to why this is going to happen or why this is happening or, basically all of the reasons why. But they basically have pulled a Twitter saying the API of all the content is now only going to be available if you pay a lot of money for it. And what it's done is it's basically made the business of making apps, which there are a number of them. So making iPhone and Android apps, mobile apps, which are way better interfaces to the content than Reddit's own app. It ostensibly puts them out of business because, there's stories out there online about Apollo is the big one. So Apollo is the big app that is everybody pretty much uses to access Reddit content because it's great. The interface is beautiful. And so there's stories out there about how they've had internal negotiations, and it's basically Reddit is clearly they're not pricing this thing in a way that says they're trying to turn this into a revenue driver. They're trying to kill all these apps. That it's just not, there's no doubt about it. They're pricing this in such a heavy-handed way that they will ultimately take the economy out of making an app for it. And whether that's so that they can actually default to their own app or whether it's so that they can actually introduce some sort of subscription model or changing it or going public or, whatever the business reasons are still a little unclear, but the world is aflutter. And last week, bunch of Reddit subreddits, which are managed by independent people, like just people who, sort of do this, the mods as they were, they've closed down a number of the subreddits. And there's quite the controversy going on right now. And to me, that's fascinating to follow because it is yet again, a fantastic lesson here of do not build your home on rented land. I don't know what these app builders have been thinking, right? It
happens every time though, right?
Every single time. It does not matter.
Right. And then at some point, happened with Facebook.
Yep.
Yeah, but Twitter is like, and then we're going to shut that down. Which they can. They have every right to do that. And that's the thing.
And that's my point. That's the point of my little commentary here is that for years it has always been like, but Reddit will be different. No, none of them will be different. At some point, it will make economic sense for them to really put their thumb on the scale of economies that have been built around their platform, either selfishly because they want to take it over, or because, and keep in mind here, Reddit could have simply acquired all of these apps, right? It could have acquired, but the key is that the commoditization there is like, why would they actually acquire Apollo, or why would they acquire this? Other than a nice interface, all the value is being provided by the content. So they can go, all we need to do is copy the interface. We can just copy the interface and build it ourselves. And now all of a sudden we get all the benefit and none of the risk. And so that will always happen. So if it's just yet another lesson for us all to say, think about where we're building our home, not that we don't build anywhere, but where we build our home, our center of the universe. If it's on somebody else's property, just beware of it, because this is a perfect another lesson in that.
Yeah, and isn't there some, I think, but as we're recording this, there's still 6,000 subreddits or something that are
down, that are black, that have gone black. Yeah. I mean, because they basically all came back and went, hey, maybe the message wasn't heard, or maybe it's not been pronounced enough. Let's continue it. Let's continue going on. And today, even if you go on Reddit, you see lots and lots of subreddits that are still blacked out.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I don't think we will ever learn. No, because it just keeps happening.
That is correct. Yeah. All right. What do you got? What's going on with you?
This weekend is Father's Day weekend. Looking forward to spending some time with my father, and we're gonna do a little Top Golf. So we're getting out there. We're gonna get, which is fun for everyone. It's fun for the whole family.
Top Golf is great.
Oh yeah,
I hate golf and I love Top Golf.
And it's fun, because you can play all the different games, whatever, and you don't have to be good.
You can drink. You can sit on couches. I mean, it's fantastic.
You can. I don't know. I don't do the whole drinking thing. I don't. Just kidding. I say that. I just posted. Pam and I drank our
flight
lunch
of beers in front
yesterday.
Of you, yeah.
We had a flight of wonderful beers at Avon Brewing Company. Highly recommend Avon, Ohio. But yes, how about you? What do you got going
on? We're just in content creation mode at the moment here with myself. We're working on a bunch of classes, both for a big client that we're doing sort of marketing classes for, as well as I'll just sort of tease it here. A different kind of version of the Content Marketing University class that I'm working on, and I'll have more to say about that as the summer progresses. But working really hard on that content, and then client work, and enjoying some of the Southern California weather. We're finally getting into some spring and summer like weather here, so fun stuff, barbecues, all that. Yeah,
perfection.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much. We will see you next week. And by see you, I mean see you. We will see you and listen to you and hear you. Please do give us those wonderful comments and all that at the thisoldmarketing.site. But until then, remember, it's your story to tell. Tell it well. We'll see you next week on This Old Marketing.